Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna show you how to test your code using Google Tests. And we're gonna do this with the random bag example that we've been using. And I will link any code that we write in the link here so that you can set this up for yourself in Memer. So I'm gonna go on to Memer. And I already have a folder in Memer, and I'll give you access to basically all these files in this folder. So we're looking right now at this test file. That's what's open. RandomBag.h is the file that we wrote together in a live lecture and in last week's lecture. So it's a simple abstraction that basically just allows you to add elements to a class and then remove them at random. And so it also has a couple helper functions like size is empty and print. So this is the test case that I'm going to use for it. Right now I have an kind of starter test case that I have set up, which is going to test random bag and it's going to test size. So that's what I've called it. But right now I just have an assert equals statement that should be true. So I can just get it to run. So I'm going to make build. If you want to see the make file for this is a little different because you have some extra flags for running with Google Tests. And then that's what's being run, so that was a clean build, and then we're going to do make run. So that's what it looks like for Google Tests. So it's showing everything that was tested and that they passed. And what we're going to do is just start writing some more tests so you can see what it looks like, but I wanted to get this set up first. I'm actually going to do something right now really quick because I wanted to show you that you do have to do some setup in order to use the tests, the Google Test framework. So let me close Memer and let me open it again. And when I restart, it is actually going to run something called a bash file. Every account on a Linux machine has this bash script that's run at startup. So when you open it up, you can see some of these things are running. And actually, because I just reopened it about 5 or 10 minutes ago, it actually didn't run as much as it will if you wait an hour and open Memer again. Then it will actually do a longer install. But the reason why it's doing that is because, so this is your directory. You can get to this directory using the tilde. So that's where this directory is. It's like your user directory. And it doesn't have much in it except for the folders that you've created and our CS251 folder. And then this is the bash file that I was talking about. So the bash file is a file that's run at startup. So if you remember from live lecture week 2, I showed you how you can create aliases for commands so that for example, for remove, it asks you before it removes something. So rm-I is the command that you use if you want to be prompted yes or no before you remove a file. It also has some other stuff in it that I've put in there. It's all this code is used in order to make it so that my prompt isn't so long, and then I just have it my name, and then this is like this little code that makes it a smiley face or a frowny face depending on how the command ran. And then this code right here is what you need to add to your bash file in order for you to be able to write Google Tests. It's not like the best way to do it, and I tried a bunch of different ways and I thought about a lot of different ways, but I think this is the way that will cause the least amount of problems. So if you just put this in your bash script, it's going to reinstall the Google Tests every single time. Of course, we could install the Google Tests in a local drive, just like where you store your project files, because those don't get deleted every time you log off of Memer. We're actually storing it in this user directory, which is something that Memer must wipe every so often. It seems like every time you log off or every hour after you've logged off. or an hour after you logged off. If you're logged on, it won't delete anything. So anyway, I'm just going to have you put this in your bash file and re-download it every time. I think this way I don't have to give you a bunch of instructions on how to link your directories, and so this is just like a little bit easier of a way. So there's instructions in the codes that I'm linking for these Google tests on how to do this and how to put this in your bash file. Just know that when you do startup now, this is going to run. So if you don't want it to run and you would like to link it a different way, if it's bothering you for some reason, or if you are not going to use Google Tests, you can just comment this out and then it won't do that anymore, or just delete it. But if you want to run Google Tests, which you need to for the next few projects, then you need to have this installed, and it's easiest to do it at startup. So let's go back to the directory that I was in before. So we're going to write a couple of tests for RandomBag, and to do that, I'm going to open up the test file that we were running before. Remember, to run this, you're just going to type make build and make run, and this runs from the make file, which is already set up for you. So now what we're going to do is start writing some test cases for RandomBag. So I already did this, using my own very bad framework of like writing functions and counting things and whatnot. So now let's do it in a better way. So we're going to start by writing a assertion that checks that the size of an empty random bag that's just constructed is 0. Let's also test add. So we're going to write some code that puts a bunch of stuff in the bag. So we could either put random things or incremented things. We should probably try both. So let's do 50 things. And then we will call RB and then add I. Now when we check our size, it should be 50 instead of 0. So that will check add. Let's write another one that checks remove. I don't know why that's a saved keyword, but I will not mess with it. I will leave that assertion in. That's totally fine to do. And I'm just going to again repeatedly do something. So why don't I take out 25 things, and I'm going to do that by calling remove. Now because I think it's called remove random, because this function is randomly calling randomly removing elements, we're not going to be able to check that it removed the correct one. So we would only be able to do that if we seeded the class randoms, the random number generator, which maybe we should try doing after this and see if we can get that to work. So right now we're just going to remove 25 and then check the size again. So now that should be 25. Let's also try something with isEmpty. So that's another function that we wrote. Let's start with calling isEmpty on something that's empty. So isEmpty should be true. So we'll compare that. And then let's call isEmpty on something that's not empty, like that. So to do that, let's just fill it with some stuff, and then this should be false. So that's a good start. So let's check to see how our test cases are. Everything ran, so we did a great job. Now let's try to test the random remove function. So we're going to do that by... Oh, actually that's not that easy to do. Let's look at my random. Oh no, it is easy to do. So we'll just use my random here. So we'll seed it, so we'll change it to auto grader true, which means that it's going to be the same every time it runs. We've set it to 15. So what that means is that when we write our test case, so let's make another test case. I'm going to do add, yeah, we'll do this one because it already has random remove called, so it'll be the least amount of. So we're going to call this remove more. That's not a very good name. You should definitely not use that name. Now, what we're going to do here is we are going to randomly remove 25 things, but we're not only going to remove them, but we're going to check that we are removing the thing that we expected. I actually don't think this is going to work because they're going to call the same random number generator. Yeah, you can't actually. I'd have to write a second myRandom class. Should I try to do it? It's probably too complicated, but right now we'd have to call the same random number generator, so while I'm testing I'll be calling the same one, so they'll be off by one. But I could test it if I made 2 copies of the myrandom.h file. Should I do it? Should I do it? Okay, I'm going to do it. You can stop watching at this point because no one cares. No, everyone cares. Okay, let's rename it. I'm going to rename it to myrandom sol. This might not work though because these might conflict. We're going to try. We're just going to give it a try. This is my idea. Where did it go? Did I put it somewhere else? Yes, I did. Okay, so I put it back a folder. So I'm going to put myrand back 2 folders. Myrand, put that here. Okay, so now we have both in here. Wait, where am I now? myrandom solution. Oh, I CD'd. Oops. Okay. Copy is what I meant to do. Myrand here. Okay, so now it's there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to include in my tests a different... You guys, I don't think this is going to work. Is this still fun to watch? Probably not. myrandom sol.h. It's also like, oh, you could just re-record this, but don't want to. Okay, so what we're going to try is in here we are going to randomly remove an element and we're going to compare it to x. And x is going to come from the call to random integer, and we are going to call it from 0 to RB size. It's inclusive, so RB size to the 1. So that's exactly what it's doing here when it calls random integer inside of RandomBag, right? When it calls random integer, that's what it's doing. So if I do it the same, I should get the same 1. And since my indexes are the same as my values, I think that should work. Should we try it? If it works, I'm going to be amazed. Okay, so it's not liking that we have 2. Oh, that's okay. I can just redefine it. So I'm going to call this one random integer 2. And then I'm going to call, so it is conflicting, obviously, because it's the same name. So it knows about both. We're specifying 2. And then did I include the right file up at the top? My random solution. Where is my error right now? Redefinition. Oh, everything is the same name. Yeah, okay, so let's just quickly go through and change everything to a 2. That is not local. So seed. So let's do a control F on seed. And then auto grader is also a 2. Auto grader 2. Okay, let's try that. Okay. Okay, so it failed. So that's what a failed test looks like. Which ones failed? One test, remove more. So remove more failed. So let's double check what we did here. So this should be fine. This should pass. And then here, that might pass. And then 25. Okay, so I'm guessing these are the problems. So I'm going to take out this assertion and try again and see if that makes it pass. And then I'll know the random integer is the thing that's causing the problem. Oops. I didn't wait till it was done. Oh, okay, so it's still not passing. So, oh, because now remove random isn't being called. Okay, let me call that. Okay, remove random. Okay, make build. This should pass. Yeah, so that is not working. So I need to do something to make this work. I'm just curious. I'm going to print out what I'm getting for each of these. So I'm going to print out X, and then I'm going to print out remove random. I'm just going to print them both out. I just want to know what is different about them. Yeah, so they're totally different values. Okay, so that seeding isn't working. So this should be seeded separately. Are they both on AutoGrader true? Yeah, they both are. So they actually, because I'm doing the element is the same as the index. It should be the same, right? Because it's retrieving the index of the randomly number generator. Let me just look at RandomBag one more time. Yeah, because it's finding that index, and that index should be the same as the value. Because I just added 50, those get pushed back, so it's 0 through 49. And then I times pulling off Which one? So X should be pulled off and should also be the one that's randomly removed. I wish someone was here to tell me, oh yeah, that makes sense. Maybe it's related to the size. Maybe something's actually wrong. Elements begin remove. Size should return that. I actually think this should work. So something about the random number so this is generating the same as this. Because I'm using pushback for add, right? Pushback value, I'm pushing back 0 through 50. Size, random integer. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't really know how the random number generator works, so it must be generating them together. So my only guess is if I randomly generated them on their own. And then, but I don't even see a pattern. They seem like completely random. The first one is X. So okay, well that's 22 minutes. Okay, so I don't know how to get this working with the random number generator. I'd have to work on it a little bit longer. Actually, don't really understand what this even is saying. It doesn't make sense to me. But you get the idea, and so it's hard to test random things that are generated randomly, but you can by generating them. The one idea I have is to like create a vector and then store the random numbers here, and randomly generate that vector, and then we might be able to match that with the numbers that are generated from the RandomBag function, and that might be a better approach than the two calling them, because I am calling srand in both, so they must be interfering with each other. So I need to do them completely separate and re-initialize the seed in between them. So this is the basic idea of testing, and I guess the good thing is that you got to see what a failed test looks like with that test and just kind of working through it. And also, that the failed test, it doesn't tell you like a whole lot, right? So it'll point you to the line where the failure occurred within the test, which is helpful. So here is another one. So it's saying that first random number doesn't work. So it's this very first one. It's saying one's 33 and one's 22. And so it can kind of direct you on where to put your cout statements. But I think it's probably driven home the point here. So that is how, and I'll put this, I will comment out the part that's not working, and I'll put in this version of the code so you can check it out for yourself. Maybe some of you will figure it out how to randomly generate them consistently. Okay, so that is it for testing a testing example with RandomBag.